Lawmakers are renewing the push for $2,000 stimulus checks for all Americans that have been financially impacted by the crisis. There are over 80 Democrats that currently support the stimulus bill. And now, Governor Tim Wolf is once again calling on state lawmakers to approve his plan for people in Pennsylvania to receive their stimulus checks. Wolf says he wants to use $500 million of the $2 billion of unspent federal crisis money to give most people in Pennsylvania a one-time state stimulus check of up to $2,000. Both the former president and President Biden got congressional approval for their stimulus checks, but so far, the state stimulus plan for Pennsylvania has had a cool reception from Republicans. One member of the state Senate Appropriations Committee says his Republican colleagues prefer to spend that money on other things like bridge work instead of fixing the interstate. Governor Wolf says the Republican legislature should act now to provide direct relief for families hit hard by inflation. Minnesota Representative Ilhan Omar, a Democrat, has also introduced legislation that would establish a federal universal basic income system. Under the proposed 5-year pilot program, U.S. adults earning under $75,000 would receive $1,200 per month and $600 for each dependent child. More than 80 Democrats in Congress have supported further stimulus cash payments. 21 senators urged President Biden to support a fourth round of checks in a letter. The lawmakers argued that the federal payment of $1,400 is just not enough to help low-income families struggling under this time. So as car travelers embark, gas prices may shock them, even if they went to the pump just a few weeks ago. According to data compiled by AAA, the average price of a gallon of gas on Friday reached nearly $4.60, up some 46 cents since a month ago. For the first time, the average price for a gallon of gas exceeded $4 in all 50 states. Gas prices could rise even higher over the coming weeks as the summer travel booms brings more people to the pump. Industry analysts told ABC News that the spike in demand coincides with a shortage of crude oil supply. Meanwhile, a long-standing oil supply shortage endures from the crisis-induced shutdown that hasn't caught up with a bounce back in the demand. The reasons for high gas prices go back to the outset of the crisis in spring 2020. As people isolated themselves at home, car use and gas consumption plummeted. The average number of daily personal car trips taken by auto owners fell by 45% back in April 2020. But by March of this year, oil demand had fully recovered to pre-crisis levels. The crisis-induced lag in oil supply has coincided with the ongoing crisis without their usual supply of crude. In March, U.S. announced that the collective release of 60 million barrels of oil from strategic reserves over the following months, which sought to alleviate some of the supply shortage and blunt price increases. Over the first 3 months of the year, the U.S. consumed about 8.4 million barrels of gas a day. But over summer months, the consumption will rise to 9.2 million barrels per day, an increase of nearly 10%. And according to the U.S. Energy Information Administration, the convergence between the shortage of supply and increase in demand has sent gasoline prices skyrocketing. Two experts have said the average national gas price could reach as high as $5 a gallon and would rise even further if a hurricane damages oil refinery issues, infrastructure, and further limit supply. A price increase would actually do damage to people's pockets this year. Anticipating a price increase over the summer, the Energy Information Administration predicts that the average household in America will spend about $33,000 on gas this year, which is adjusted for inflation. Folks, what are your thoughts on this? Will President Biden do something to help the American people out with stimulus checks?
There is an investigation launched, and it's very intensive. You have to get to the site. You have to get the cultures if they're available. You have to interview everyone concerned, and often you need to review the medical records. And in this case, the Minnesota Health Department, from all the reports I've gotten, did a splendid job. The problem is it was one case, and it was Chronobacter positive, but Chronobacter, for example, is found in up to 15% of sponges in kitchens at home. It's a ubiquitous organism. It's not necessarily. So that case was very well documented.
And was it linked to the formula?
It was.
I mean, they suspected a link.
The infant had ingested that formula, so right. It was a matter of concern.
Yeah.
I'd also point out Chronobacter is not a reportable organism, and so we have banks of now DNA sequencing. If we look at the peanut butter case that just occurred, that was solved within days because we were able to link the genetics of the peanut butter and the sickness of the people, the genetics that were in the infections in those people, and the plant within days because we had the information. I think we need to do something about Chronobacter because it's a well-known, although infrequent, cause of contaminant of infant formula.
So, but are you saying that you think that the length of time that it took from when MDH, Minnesota Department of Health, issued provided this information, and when the FDA ended up, where the recall happened, is that as long as it should be according to the way your policies work? Could it be?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to start just with a couple quick yes/no answers. And you can tell from my opening statement where I'm going with this. So do you commit to providing responses to the EPW committee in a timely manner?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Do you agree with the following statement made by Administrator Regan? It is an obligation of all of us as public servants to be as transparent as possible to this body and to the public.
Yes.
Thank you. And I appreciate that. So I'm going to go back to a couple letters that I wrote you recently in 2021. I was asking about the oversight on the renewable fuel standards. I wrote in March, in August, and again in October. I sent 3 separate letters. I did not get any response until December 14th, 2021, which was 9 months after the first letter, when you sent me 3 letter responses with virtually identical responses in each letter. In other words, they all had the same text. And I will put that, I ask unanimous consent to put the correspondence into the record. So do you believe the form letter responses that you provided to these 3 letters was timely and transparent?
I'd have to go back, Senator. To answer your question in a meaningful way, I would like to go back to the letters you sent and refresh my recollection on the letters that we sent back to you. I can assure you that I completely agree with you that transparency and clarity is essential, the role of the Office of Air and Radiation. And I would be happy to respond further after I get a look at the letters.
Okay, yeah, I would like that. I would offer my opinion that 9 months to answer a letter is not timely, and that since all 3 of them said exactly the same thing, I question how much time it took to really put those together and what kind of depth of looking at our congressional oversight. But we'll talk about that once you look at it in greater depth. So I want to talk to you about the Clean Power Plan. During your time in the Obama administration, you helped to write the Clean Power Plan, correct?
Correct.
Correct. In a 2019 op-ed, you wrote with Gina McCarthy and Janet McCabe that you called the Clean Power Plan a success. You